Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is July 4th, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1933, one of my favorite names to say in pro wrestling, Rufus R. Jones. 1940, Canada's own Bob Sweetan. 1960, one of the most amazing talents of all time, Barry Windham. And last but not least, 1989, AEW's bad boy himself, Joey Janela. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for July 4th. 1988, Adrian Adonis. All right, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for July 4th. Getting in the Wayback Machine and going all the way to 1966, where we see Don Leo Jonathan and Haystacks Calhoun defeat John Tolos and Tony Bourne to win the NWA Canadian Tag Team titles. Grabbing my best polyester suit and going to 1974, where we see Gary Michael Capetta make his official debut as a ring announcer for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in New Jersey, an event headlined by world champion Bruno Sammartino defeating Nikolai Volkov. Sticking in 1974, Ric Flair and Rip Hawk defeat Paul Jones and Bob Bruggers in Greensboro, North Carolina, to win the NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team titles. Grabbing my boombox and going to the 80s, 1982, the Atlanta Omni was the site for a very rare WWF vs. NWA World Title match, which saw WWF Champion Bob Backlund go to a double countout against NWA World Champion Ric Flair. 1983, World Class runs their Independence Day Star Wars event, which sees David Von Erich defeat Jimmy Garvin to win the vacant World Class Texas Heavyweight title. In the main event, the Von Erichs, Kerry, Kevin, and David defeat the Fabulous Freebirds Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts in a 3 falls match. Moving ahead 1 year to 1984, Jim Crockett Promotions ran Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with NWA World Champion Fighting Twice, first defeating Gary Royal and then Wahoo McDaniel. Sticking in 1984 for another world-class championship wrestling Independence Day Star Wars, the main event this time sees Chris Adams and Stella Mae French defeat Jimmy Garvin and Precious in a loser leaves town steel cage match. 1985 and another world-class championship wrestling Independence Day Star Wars sees a main event of Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez defeat Kerry and Kevin Von Erich when Adams pinned Kerry. Moving to 1986, WWF and Stampede Wrestling ran a rare combined card in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with a main event of WWF champion Hulk Hogan defeating King Kong Bundy. Sticking in 86 and once again a world-class championship wrestling Independence Day Star Wars event that is main evented by world-class 6-man tag team champions the Von Erichs, Kevin, Mike, and Lance defeating Butch Reed, Buzz Sawyer, and Matt Bourne. 1987, Jim Crockett Promotions holds the main show of their 1987 Great American Bash Tour in Atlanta, Georgia at the Omni, featuring the debut of War Games The Match Beyond. The match features 2 rings side by side covered by a large steel cage with a roof. The bout saw the 4 horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Lex Luger, and manager J.J. Dillon versus Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, the Road Warriors, and manager Paul Ellering. The match started with Rhodes versus Anderson for 5 minutes. Then the teams alternated sending in a wrestler in 2-minute intervals. Once both teams were completely inside the cage, the match could only end by submission or surrender. Dillon surrendered after being bloodied by the Warriors and Ellering, giving Rhodes' team the victory. Dillon was injured during the match and was replaced in other War Games matches on the Bash Tour by the War Machine, aka Big Bubba Rogers under a mask. Sticking in 1987, the WWF held a live card before a Canadian Football League football game between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Toronto Argonauts. In the main event, the Hart Foundation defeated the Killer Bees. 1990, Brutus Beefcake suffered serious facial injuries during a parasailing accident in Letts, Florida. His nose was crushed, his jaw was wired shut, and 8 steel plates and 40 screws and more than 100 staples were surgically inserted. B. Brian Blair was with Beefcake when the accident happened and was credited with saving his life by ensuring Beefcake was able to breathe. Beefcake made a full recovery but would not return to the ring until 1993. Sticking in 1990, John Tatum defeats Bill Dundee in Dallas, Texas to win the USWA Southern Heavyweight title for a third time. Moving ahead to 1993, in an angle designed to catapult him to the top of the WWF as an All-American babyface, Lex Luger arrived via helicopter on the deck of the USS Intrepid in New York City to body slam WWF champion Yokozuna. Yokozuna had offered an open challenge for any athlete to try to slam him in a way to mock the United States. The event drew 1,500 fans, granting them admission to the museum and standing room general admission to the event. And last but not least, 1999, Extreme Championship Wrestling ran an outdoor event at Bar A in New Jersey, drawing 500 fans. In one of those funny twists of life, future TNA and WWE star Matt Morgan was the bouncer at the bar. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for July 4th. I'm the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.